Kimberlain, no.
Okay. Welcome back to the From the Fabricator podcast. I'm your host, Max Pearlstein. Thank you so much for once again joining me for a ride through the awesome industry that's ours, the glass and glazing industry. Good one again today. Very excited about these guests, and I'll get to that in a second. But you may be listening to this or watching this ahead of BEC, which is coming to Louisville March 1st to the 3rd. If you are, can't wait to see you. If you've already been to BEC and this is listening to it later, I hope you had a good time. And those of you missing it, you're missing out. But hopefully you can be there. BEC, and I'm rocking a DP glass or double play glass from Evan Afner of DP Glass, and he gave me this shirt, and he is going to be one of the speakers on one of the really good panels that are set up. So you want to be there for that. Also, as always, I really appreciate the support that this podcast gets from the fine people at FHC. So attention, Northeast Glazers and Fabricators. FHC New Jersey is now open. The new FHC New Jersey Supercenter brings 120,000 square feet of manufacturing and distribution to the New York metropolitan area, bringing a new level of products and services this region has been missing. Glass entrances, door hardware, frameless shower doors, architectural railing, commercial storefronts, transaction hardware, and glass and glazing tools and supplies. FHC has what you need. If you're tired of back orders, unanswered calls, ghost town customer service, and endless wait times, you now have a choice. Meet the FHC team at the aforementioned BEC in Louisville. They'll have a full crew there, as always, and discover why more and more glazers are choosing FHC, FHC-USA.com. So thank you to them. All right, so let's get to it. We've got the 2015 glass industry MVP, Jon Kimberlain of Dow. Fantastic. Just a genuine article. And then our yearly visit from Nick St. Denis of KMR Research, going through the forecast, grading last year and looking here at 2026. So a good one all the way around. And let's get it started with Jon Kimberlain. Okay. Kicking it off this month, I'm thrilled to have Jon Kimberlain of Dow. He's a principal scientist, technical services and development there. If you go to dow.com and you hit applications, then building components and materials, you'll see what Jon does. Or you can go to bioconnect.dow.com/city. That's a really cool site too. I'll repeat these a few more times. And if you missed that, just email me. But you want to see these sites. Jon, thank you so much for doing the podcast.
Well, thank you, Max. It's always good to chat with you.
I can't wait. You and I go way back, and I say this to a lot of people. There's always something I find out about somebody that I did not know, and I'm assuming today will be the same thing. And I'm excited to get to know you, but also, a lot of people in the industry kind of know you, you've worked with them, but they may not know you from a personal level, and also all the different things you bring to the table. So let's just start with your past, where you were born, grew up, went to school, up to your current perch at Dow.
Okay, so I'll start with this. It's not very linear. It's not like I picked to be where I'm at today, but it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
One is I was born in Kettering, Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah, we moved when I was 2, so no permanent damage was done. We moved to a small town in Kentucky, Elizabethtown.
Okay.
And so mom was a teacher, dad was an entrepreneur,
Okay.
including building houses. So one of the reasons why I'm in the industry is I was cheap labor and weak mind, strong back type of thing, helping him build houses on the side. So
Nice.
Went to University of Kentucky, and I made the obvious choice of going into chemical engineering, like many people do, because it was the engineering that was going to make the most money out of college.
There you go.
But I always had a technical background, like math, like how things were built. Things like that. And then go ahead.
And I didn't realize Kentucky had a chemical engineering program. I mean, so obviously it must be pretty good if you're an alumnus.
Yeah. And I graduated the year they won the national championship in 1996.
Is that Tubby? Is that the Tubby year, or is that Patino?
It was Rick. Yeah. Patino.
Patino. Gotcha.
So, yeah. I had some friends that were walk-ons, and it was kind of a cool environment to be.
Be a part of a national championship and kicking butt in classes too. Okay, keep going. So you graduate.
And so in college, I'd worked for a water treatment company called Betts at Toyota Motor Manufacturing. So I got hired by a very small firm in Louisville that did something similar, but it was so small that I was sales, technical services, made the material, unloaded the trucks, loaded the trucks. You can kind of get an idea of, like, the small
Everything.
family business.
Yep.
So that lasted about a year, and then I was able to find a position that was more along the lines of what I wanted, and it was Gates Rubber Company.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so they made polyurethane synchronous belts. So it's if you see a Harley Davidson, more than likely that belt was manufactured in Elizabethtown, Kentucky.
Okay.
So did the product and process development for them. So got a taste for the idea of research and
Sure.
building things like that. And then about 2 or 3 years of that ended up at then Dow Corning. So
Hmm.
that was 1999.
Wow.
So almost 27 years with Dow Corning and Dow Sill. So, and
That's
what drew me there is that in college as a chemical engineer, I had some classes with a professor that really kind of lit a fire for me, and one of them was polymer processing, which I know
okay.
is probably not a common track for a lot of the glass and
Sure.
glaze, but it was based in material science. It was trying to describe how things work. It really tickled my brain in a way that was very interesting. So when I joined, I joined in the manufacturing side, starting up processes, commercializing,
Okay.
things like that. And then around 2007, I went into the field. I'm into
Okay.
the technical services side of it. So
Did you
um,
like the technical side going in the field? I mean, because you do, people love you. They gravitate to you. So I assume you probably enjoyed going to different plants and different job sites and so on.
yeah, that was one reason why I wanted to is wanted to be able to see the world, see where our products were going,
Yeah.
trying to understand when we'd get feedback from the field, what it meant to the site or to R&D. Yeah, so it was a passion. It was having grown up building houses, and pretty much everyone we ever built leaked, the ones I lived in at least. So having access to things that are supposed to improve weatherability,
Yeah.
things that are durable, that's really always been a fun thing for me, just because it ignites your curiosity, and one thing you grow up in a community like this is you want to figure out how to create value, and
Hmm.
creating value by solving problems for folks, whether it's products or application or design. Those are the things that always kind of drove me to, as an avowed introvert, to get up in front of people and talk about the things that I felt were important, and where I could bring some value to it.
Yeah, and you always bring up the introvert thing, but you're not in reality. You've commanded many a room, my friend. So it's hard to command a room when you're an introvert, but you do it. So you can't use that term anymore.
Okay, we'll have to come. What is it? The old Garrison Keeler. There was one of them looked down at their shoes, and the other looked at the other person's shoes. That's probably somewhere in
It's it.
there.
I mean, but yeah, you're good. You're good. So I love it. So and you've been now with Dow, which was again Dow Corning at one point, and after you were in the field, you came inside, and is that what you're still doing now on the inside?
No, I kind of have a hybrid role.
Okay,
Just from a standpoint of how long I've been with the company,
right,
I do a lot more like mentoring and consulting. I
great.
still try to get out in the field, try to interact with customers and things like that. But yeah, I spend more time in front of a computer than I would like.
Yeah.
Um,
That's 2026 for you though. I think
right,
I think that's the world now. I mean, all those times we used to have meetings on job sites, they're now done by Teams or Zoom. You know,
right,
it's a
yeah.
totally different world. So yeah, but at least you still get to get out a little bit.
Yeah, I just got back from Hawaii, speaking at a glass conference, and
Yep,
it was nice to see 80-degree weather and no snow and ice. So
yep,
that was
yeah.
awesome.
Yep.
Yeah,
Glass Expo Hawaii for the first time in 20 years. You were there. I saw a picture. Looked good. And so good there. I'm with Jon Kimberlain, Principal Scientist, Technical Services and Development over at Dow. Dow.com is the main address. And then if you hit applications, Then you hit building components and materials because Dow is just huge. There's just so much going on. You can see what Jon does, among other things. It's pretty awesome. And so, in case those that don't know about your particular world of Dow, people know Dow 795 and things like that. Talk a little bit about exactly kind of like your wheelhouse over at Dow.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm probably best known as being an expert in structural glazing,
Hmm.
structural silicone glazing, and that's from like cradle to grave, from how we manufacture the sealants, how they're formulated, how they behave, how you design with them. My title's principal scientist, but I kind of think of myself as a building scientist.
Okay.
Because I think about how things behave in the in service of
Hmm.
that, beyond just getting it there. Publish a lot of research on the use of like finite element analysis, so like material models for our sealants. How do you design complicated buildings for seismic, blast, things, fun things like that. I
Yeah.
actually, part of my presentation last week was a review of some testing that I did with the University of Kentucky. I've got a relationship with their explosives research team,
Right.
and I was showing the folks where we took and built some windows, and went to a mine that was like 300 feet below the ground there in Georgetown, Kentucky, and blew them up. So done
Nice.
that kind of a fun little project there. So that's where I would say I focus a lot of my time, beyond just the mentoring and trying to help
Sure.
people succeed internally,
Sure. I
is
love
that
it.
research.
I love it. I love it. So this kind of dials into my next question. The unitizing world has taken off. I mean, from back in the day when I first met you, in the late '90s, early 2000s to now, it's pretty big. How has that changed things from the standpoint of more and more people are unitizing versus field install?
Well, I think the biggest thing is quality. I think it allows people to have a stronger quality control program, whether that's applying the sealants, the dimensions of the frames that you put together, um, even oversight. Right, you have more people that can take a look at it than if you're up in a scaffold or a um, so I would say that was one of the biggest
Yeah.
improvements. So you know the quality functions as part of the whole liability concept too. So you're able to um, do things differently. Like we see a lot of people that what's kind of bogging me down is that presentation I was talking about. I was talking
Hmm.
about the history of structural glazing,
Yep.
and that the first two-part project that I've seen documented was 1984.
I did not think that would go back that far.
Yeah. So, and the building is still up. It's experienced a bunch of seismic events.
Interesting.
Um, so, and they learned quite a few things in that they needed to let things sit long enough. I'm sorry, the first unitize was 1984 with a two-part sealant.
Okay.
So
Got it.
that was the first time that they were able to take and build a unit and within 24 hours put it up on a building. And so what I was trying to get at with the quality control is, you see a lot more adoption of people using two-part materials,
Right.
not just because of the speed of fabrication, but you can control, your fabrication better as well,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Instead of having to build a ton of units, which we call that work in process, and that equals dollars. You got to pay for the materials.
Yeah.
You have maybe the ability to lean out your system and have better control and throughput of materials and things like that. So that's I think another critical piece, and one reason why I think a lot of people are unitizing is because it's more productive, perhaps from an economic perspective.
Hmm.
um, yeah.
Yeah, and the quality. I think the quality is the main kind of decision maker there. So because
Yeah.
like you said, there's the ultimate control, and you as a supplier, as a manufacturer of a product that's going into that, you probably prefer it too because the conditions are controlled, and that's got to be a
Yes.
big piece too. So that's it makes a difference as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge. and just the fact that you have better control of when you're cutting things and putting things together.
Yep.
And just imagine like two people on a swing stage trying to control all that versus you got 10 or 15 people on shop floor that are all looking out for each other, hopefully, and trying to get the best product out there.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Given everything that you know and everything you've been around, if you could change one thing in our industry, one thing, what would it be? And you can't say get me off of blogging every week because I'm drive you crazy.
No, I'd never do that. I love reading your blogs.
You're
And
too
then just
kind.
as an aside, Max, I think you kind of revolutionized the use of social media
Well,
for the
thank you.
glass and glazing industry. So I'm pretty tickled. I'm telling my family, hey, I'm on Max's podcast. So
Well,
uh,
I'm honored by that. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. So what would you change? What would you change?
well, it's going to be revolutionary, I
Hit
think.
me.
So and I was reminded at a conference. I think the one thing that just baffles me is as a industry that kind of touts the idea that the only building material that lets people interact inside to out, outside to in, we still have conferences where there's zero windows in dimly lit buildings.
Yes,
So, it would be nice to like have a industry conference where it's, some glass featured. Uh,
you're
I
right.
can I can remember like an event in Philadelphia. I think there's a big glass dome.
Hmm.
Um, but I was trying to think of others, and I don't know if on one hand I could think of something where glass is featured that way. So
No, I mean, the only one that comes close for me is the first couple Texas Glass conferences were held at Baylor's football stadium, and it was on the mezzanine, so you had the
cool.
windows behind you, and so you at least had that natural light flowing in that way. But you're right, it's always in a hotel ballroom. It is always dim and dark. That's a good point, and we are sometimes our worst enemy. Quite frankly, I mean, we are sometimes our worst enemy, and we can't get out of our own way. And that's a great point when you think about it. I mean, that's our product. Why are we not jumping all over it? And it makes me crazy too. But that's a good point by you. Good point. I love it. And now, were there windows in Hawaii last week, or were you in a cold, hard hotel room?
So there were windows if you stepped out of the meeting room.
Okay.
It always was like an excuse to like, oh, I need to go take a phone call so I can like also gaze out the window. Where we were at too on Waikiki, there lots of cool things to look at
That's
with
true.
the
Yeah,
the
might be
beaches and stuff.
distracting. It might be distracting to the audience. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
I love it. Well, I got Jon Kimberlain with me, Principal Scientist, Technical Services and Development, Dow.com. Check them out. You may know them. They're awesome. And Jon is fantastic. And obviously, halfway through my pod, I always like to do a fun question. And this one I cannot wait because I have my answer. But you're a Kentucky guy. I did not know you were born in Kettering, Ohio. So I'm glad you did move to Kentucky. Did not know that. I know that you're a Derby guy, and I assume you've been to your fair share of Derbies. And so my question is, what is your favorite Derby or favorite horse of all time? What is the one that jumps out at you as like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen?
Well, let me preface this with the fact too, as an entrepreneur, my dad actually worked for the horse racing industry.
Cool.
He was
Okay.
actually he actually led the a lot of the capital projects for three of the tracks here in Kentucky. So as part of those duties, we would go visit, and he'd bring us, and we'd always get set up in the nicest dining room overlooking the track, and our reality was biased that this was how everybody in the horse racing industry.
Yeah.
But at 10 years old, I picked a horse that won that was 80 to 1. So
Wow. Now,
can
which
you
horse?
imagine how many baseball cards I bought with all that
Wow.
money?
Wow. That's the long
And
shot of the long shot. I love it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and my of course my parents did place the bet for me, and
Of
they
course.
but I've always enjoyed horse racing because of that connection.
Hmm.
And my favorite horse is also kind of a
Yeah.
similar reason, and it was 1986
Okay.
Ferdinand.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and people have probably heard about Ferdinand. They not the best outcome. I think ended up in Japan, but it was the first time where I was um, able to interact in the Derby, in that we had friends that were kind of politically connected and were going to take bets for us. And so I, of course, asked to put $2 down. And I can remember I was fishing at a farm pond with a friend. We had a
Yeah.
radio, and turned the derby on, and um, was listening and just yelling, running up and down the dam, and hooting and hollering as a 12-year-old would. And Ferdinand was my horse, and I think it paid like 37.60 or something for it. So again,
It's beautiful. It works.
take that investment, invested in baseball cards. If you know baseball cards in 1986, how much those are worth today.
Yep.
probably,
Yep. Especially if you have
probably,
some rookie cards. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So
I love it.
yeah, and it was he was ridden by Bill Shoemaker, who was one of the most well-known
Jockeys of all
jockeys at
time.
the
Yeah.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, that was my
Good.
Derby story.
I love it. I love it. Well, mine is that I grew up, and my family's a huge sports family, so we watched everything. And I grew up, I oddly in Pittsburgh, but I was a Seattle Seahawk fan as a little kid, and it was because my favorite uncle lived in Seattle. So I loved, in Seattle, the Seahawks started in '76, and I was a kind of that age of, I just love Seattle. Well, here comes Seattle Slew, and that was my horse. And
Yeah,
what a dominating horse, I mean,
yeah,
that horse did it all. And it gets kind of forgotten in history too, because it's not Secretariat, it's not Affirmed, it's not Smarty Jones, American Pharaoh. I mean, a Seattle Slew is a damn good
yeah,
horse. And
yeah.
so
It
that's
was.
my guy. That's my guy.
That, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
I asked you the questions so I could tell people about Seattle Slew, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say I probably have. I think I have the Derby glass from where he won
Nice.
from that
Nice.
year. We used to collect those as part of the Derby passion that we have.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say too, as a Kentucky guy, we don't go to the Derby because it's just absolute madness.
Right.
You go the days before. One, the tickets a lot less,
Yeah.
and two, it's a little bit more relaxed. So that's kind of what if you want like a tip from the locals, that's what I would say is hit Thurby's a great one because it's like $200 and you can get a box that would cost you 2,000 for the Derby.
Nice.
But
Nice.
you get to dress up with the bow tie and the brightly colored jackets and still have fun. So
I love it. I love it. I did not know that. So that's good piece from you. Very cool. I've got Jon Kimberlain with me, principal scientist, technical services and development at Dow. Dow.com is the website. And to see what Jon does, you hit applications, then building components and materials, and you'll see what they do. And also a fun site, bioconnect.dow.com/city. That's a really, really cool site as well. So we got BEC coming up, and it's coming to your backyard in Louisville. And so a couple things on this. One, you used to run this conference way back in the day very successfully. So you know the importance of it and what it's all about. And also Louisville, it's your home. So it's kind of a two-part question. One, why should people attend this conference? And two, why Louisville is a really cool location for this and something different than we've done before.
yeah, so just kind of a point of clarification, you have to put a little umph in it. You have to say Louisville.
Louisville. Okay,
Yeah.
I gotta get. See. I'm just glad that I learned early on that it wasn't Louisville. So I feel it feels so much better there. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
And well, I was gonna say, and Louisvillians will tend to like let you know too. So don't
All
worry
right.
if you they'll keep you on track.
I'll be ready. I'll be ready. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, like, just I can't imagine a better place to go connect with the glass and glazing industry. You have, the most influential glaziers, consultants, designers, all one in one place. I mean, that to me has always been. I mean, we've always had good content and things like that, but just the opportunity to hit so many different people that you work with is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I've always had a special place in my heart for it because it's dynamic. In 2 days, you're just exhausted because you've talked to so many people.
Yeah.
Um, I've gotten ideas for papers just from a random conversation.
That's cool.
Develop lifelong friendships. It's just a great place as someone that likes this industry, likes to participate in this industry to try to make it every year.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. If you can, you go that Sunday night reception. You just spend 2 hours bouncing around the room. and it's just incredible. And you may not see that person again the next day and a half, but at least you
Yeah.
got 10 minutes with him or her that Sunday night, and it's just fantastic. It's hard to explain to people who've never been, and so I'm hoping we get some more first timers and they can experience it. In Louisville's great, great town, great town.
Yeah. Yeah. We were talking about like internally our planning for this,
Hmm.
and we've got several new people, and they're looking at the agenda, going, "Hey, this thing on Monday is really interesting. Do we really need to go Sunday?" And I was like, "That's number one. You
Yeah,
can't not go to that if you're coming to the show.
yeah.
It's almost like the top thing to do from my perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it just is hard to beat. It's hard to beat. And so I think you nailed that, and I'm looking forward to it. And what I love about you is that you had the BEC role, and you're still very active within NGA. You were very active in Ghana, Glass Association of North America, and also the AGMCC with the training and certification, which is crucial. What has that done for you in your career, getting involved in all these things? Because you didn't need any of this. You're successful on your own. You've got, you're able to write papers, you're able to, educate people, but yet and I bring this up to everybody who volunteers. I'm always really impressed by people who don't actually, quote unquote, need to do it, but they do it. What has that done though for you in your career, being as heavily involved in these things as you've been?
I mean, frankly, I don't know if I would have been here without it. Um, it's I was listening to a couple other podcasts. I think Troy and Mike were talking about,
Yep.
once you get in the glass and glazing industry, it's hard to leave.
Right. Right.
And again, as an aside, I was like, from an artistic standpoint, it's like you become a part of a mosaic. You're kind of
Yeah.
woven into this industry because of the people that you meet and get to interact with. Um, you know, I've been involved with helping write different manuals, different
Yep.
GIBs, so able to influence, the outcome and success of the glazing industry. And more importantly, is I get to sit in the same room with people that are much smarter than me that are also working on this. So I'm learning as part of this process. Like you learn something new today, right? That's
Yeah.
to me is like a great day is when I can, feel like I've grown and provided value and helped, people be successful. So I credit having been involved with Ghana and NGA as having, been able to be recognized globally as an expert. I've spoken in like 10 different countries.
That's
You
right.
know, I the first day I stepped on the stage for the BEC when I was cheering it, I could have never imagined that. So it's propelled me in places beyond where I ever thought I could be.
Deserved, deserved. Well, you know what? It didn't come as a fluke. You worked hard to get there, and the fact that you give up a lot of times. You had a young family, still have some young parts of the family. Yet you still made time for them because you got great kids. But also made time for the glass industry, which I'm grateful for because I think we've all learned things from you over the years. So much appreciated there, my friend.
Well, I mean, you all are an extended part of my family as well. That's the other part is you get to meet these people and get to know them, and it's just a. I think you asked like why if you're on the fence why well
Yeah,
you get to see your friends and you
yeah.
know that's a good part of it too.
And you make friends too.
Yeah.
I'll leave the person nameless, but I'll never forget visiting this person and saying, "You need to come to BEC." And he goes, "Well, I'm not comfortable at events, and I don't know anybody." And now, fast forward, 4 years later, and he's a part of this crew of people from all different backgrounds, from all different parts of the country. They're like bestest of friends. That's what happens,
Yeah.
and he's in one area of the business and all these other people in different areas of the business. You don't have to be in that same world. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think you nailed it. We're a family. It's
Yeah.
well said by you. Well said by you. We got to wrap up here because I know you're a busy man. I've got Jon Kimberlain with me, principal scientist, technical services and development at Dow. 2026. We're a couple months into this. How are you feeling about things? Again, you come from a different angle. I always love it when I'm talking to somebody who comes at it from a different angle. You're coming from components. You're coming from a massive company. I don't need trade secrets. Obviously, I wouldn't ask you, and you won't give them to me anyway. But how is the year looking? How you feeling? What's your vibe out there right now?
Yeah, I'll go with the vibe part.
Yeah.
Because as I said, it was nice to get to Hawaii because there was no snow and ice,
Yeah.
but we've had some significant weather, and as a material supplier, every day you can't get out in the field, you're missing the potential for additional orders and additional work.
Hmm.
So, it'll be interesting to see how this weather impacts, because it doesn't feel like the year's gotten a great start. I mean,
Yep.
I'm always optimistic, but it's just the snow and the ice wears on you too, I think, because you're stuck in the house. And
It
it's
does.
just,
It does.
yeah,
It does have a mental effect, but from the business effect, and the worst part I think is that you go through these snowy conditions like in places like Louisville, Nashville, and so on. And Nashville is still frozen. But then
yeah,
after the freeze, you have the wet, you have the mud, and nobody wants to work in that. The mud bowl aspect.
right.
And so this is just the beginning of a really tough run that does kind of, you're right, that I'm thinking economy and tariffs and all that, but you're right, the weather is playing a heck of a role this year.
Yeah. It doesn't make like you brought up the tariffs and so sort of the chaos, right?
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
that's the other part I'm looking towards is like it feels like we've a lot of chaos, maybe even some of it self-inflicted.
right.
It'll just be nice when things become a bit more predictable.
Yep, yeah.
So it's hard to like, what do you feel like the back half of 2026 is? It's hard to hopefully it's not snow and ice in July, I guess is what I would say.
Well, better not be. It better, you know what? As far as it better be gone by March 1st when we show up in your
Right.
backyard for BEC.
Yeah.
So that's a big piece. I hope we're in good shape weather-wise. That's for sure.
Yeah. I was gonna say
Yeah,
too, to plug Louisville
yeah.
a bit.
Please.
It's become a foodie city, and I
Okay.
would love to recommend restaurants, but there are so many good restaurants that it would take you like 6 months to go through all the top ones on Yelp. So I would
Wow.
just say, come prepared to eat, come prepared to find some different cuisines and stuff. And there's some great museums downtown. There's Muhammad Ali, there's
Hmm.
Fraser,
Yep.
and Churchill Downs, and then the gateway to it's the urban gateway to bourbon country. So
Right. Right.
lots of cool stuff to do. And even the last thing I would say is there's actually some glass blowing shops downtown too. So
Okay.
there's a lot of good things to do here in Louisville, and I'm looking extremely forward to seeing all my friends, you Max, and hope you all have a great time. Hope we, as a state and the city, can represent this well, and hopefully enough that where you all come back and making an easy commute for me.
Yeah, there you go. I'd like to see it happen. I mean, I had Brad Thurman, fellow Kentuckian on the podcast last month, and I said to him, I look at Louisville as the next iteration in Nashville. I mean, you went Atlanta was the hot city, then Charlotte was the hot city, then Nashville took off. I look at where you live I mean, it does have everything. I do think you got delayed a little bit with COVID.
Yeah,
That kind of took a step back. But when you talk about the culture there, you talk about all the other things, and then you talk about the nightlife and the Bourbon Trail, and I mean, there it's underrated at this point. And with your airport adding on, that will just make it a little bit more attractive to all. I think we're just on the cusp of it, but some people are afraid of the unknown. So hopefully they come and give it a shot, right? That
yeah,
you see it when you get here.
yeah, yeah. Well, and for everyone traveling, safe travels, and hope to catch up with you on Sunday evening.
Yes, Sunday evening, March 1st, for BEC. Thank you, Jon Kimberlain, president. Huh, yeah, there you go. Principal scientist, should be president. Technical services and development at dow.com. Check that out. Check him out. See him at BEC. Keep up the great work, both with the certification side and NGA side and everything you're doing with quality and insurance in the field, my friend. You are a rock star, and I'm very, very grateful for your time today and being on the podcast. Thank you again.
And thank you, Max. Take
My,
care.
my pleasure.
Hey Glazers and Fabricators, FHC, the frameless hardware company, is here to support your business. In addition to offering a complete selection of glazing tools and supplies to get the job done right, We design, engineer, and manufacture a comprehensive offering of frameless shower door systems, heavy glass doors, aluminum entrances and storefronts, architectural railings, transaction and display hardware. Privately owned and American-made, FHC prioritizes you, the customer. You now have a choice. Visit fhc-usa.com.
Okay. Yearly tradition. I've got Nick St. Denis with me, Vice President, Research and Data, KMR, Key Media and Research. You can find him online at research.keymediaresearch.com, or you can go to keymediaresearch.com and hit the research button. He is the guy, the knower of all when it comes to the forecasts in our industry and some of the data. Nick, thank you so much for doing the podcast.
Thanks, Max. Happy to do it again. Can't believe it's been how many years now since we've done it. So
I think this is either third or fourth. It might be fourth.
Probably.
It's been great. I appreciate you doing it. It may even be more than that. I'll have to go look, but I appreciate you doing it. People look forward to hearing what you have to say. Those that aren't lucky enough to see you at a show, and we'll talk about that in a second because you just spoke at one. It's great that you can give them a taste here, and then obviously at your website, they can get everything that they need. But for those who don't know you, his listeners, and we're adding listeners all the time, give a little bit of background on you so they can get to feel for Nick St. Denis.
Okay, yeah, I'll try to skip the boring stuff, but basically, I grew up in very northeast part of New York State and lived there for half my life and went to school for journalism. Worked a little bit as a sports writer through college, and then a little bit throughout or after college. Moved to Virginia 15 years ago, which is amazing to say. It doesn't feel like it's been that long, but I've been here for that long. And so I said half my life, so now I'm kind of making myself sound younger than I am. But anyway, moved to Virginia about 15, 16 years ago. Then started working at a trade publication 13 years ago called U.S. Glass Magazine.
Yep.
And was an assistant editor there and edited a couple other publications, did some newsletter work and trade show coverage and all that stuff, and became really interested in industry trends and sort of the construction industry in general. I've come to realize over the past couple of years as to why I was drawn to what I do now, and I think it's because having a sports background and the data and analytics and sort of trying to make sense of like something you're looking at through numbers is something that I think kind of translates to what I do now. So now I run the market research division at KMR, which we launched several years ago. A little background on KMR. KMR is the publisher of U.S. Glass Magazine, Door and Window Market Magazine, and we organize the regional Glass Expos trade shows. And then in addition to that, we have a market research division, which we launched about 8 years ago that I started, and I've been heading since. And we just provide custom market research services to industry stakeholders in the glass and glazing industry. We publish industry insights and market reports for the industry, and have sort of a combination of customized work and also sort of ready-made, syndicated reporting too.
Right. And quarterly, you put out the quarterly outlooks as well. And that's very, very helpful. So, folks who are interested, we're going to cover a bunch of different stuff. But if you go to Key Media Research, all one word, keymediaresearch.com, you'll see everything that KMR does. And then if you hit the research tab, that takes you to Nick's world and domain, and that's where you can see everything. And we're going to talk about a few of the specifics. But right now, I want to kind of just go backwards for a second and talk about 2025. It was, for me, it was all over the place. What was your take? Looking back, I know you had a really good feel for it. If we look back at what you said on this podcast last year, but how was the year and your overall take on how it all turned out?
Yeah. So in terms of it being all over the place, that's kind of what you get in a role like yours, where you're talking to so many different people, because the dynamics of even just one product versus another product, whether you cover certain building segments, or you're in a specific region of the U.S. or a metropolitan area, whatever the case may be, there's all these little different pockets of the industry, and depending on who you talk to, you can get mixed reviews, right?
Yeah.
And that is the case actually, but overall, in terms of expectations, it was pretty in line with our expectations.
Yep.
Going into the year, there's kind of two main things on the non-residential side. Institutional building, which is your healthcare, educational, transportation, amusement, recreation, government, those sorts of buildings, had been kind of your steady, your kind of rock over the past several years. And going into this year, while it was slowing down a little bit, we still anticipated to get a little bit of like low single digit growth there, which we did see. And then commercial has been flat over the past couple of years, and we finally saw a little bit of a dip last year in the commercial side, which is more your private spending, and so that did hold true. Looking at our glass and glazing spending, our main figure that we have,
Mhm.
we were like within 1 percentage point in our year-over-year change forecast. So it was pretty much in line with what we expected. But one of the things that we didn't necessarily see, or what we thought we were going to see, is construction starts were anticipated to start picking up a little bit in 2025. So, which would mean that 2026 and 27, you'd start to see that lift in the glass and glazing industry, as it's a lagging, the activity levels in glass and glazing is going to be lagging behind construction starts. And we didn't see as much of that growth in the starts. They were there, but they didn't start, I guess. And so that kind of bled into our forecasting now for the next couple of years, and is sort of pushing back that bounce back that we thought was going to be coming maybe this year and definitely next year.
Yeah, the slide, and we'll talk about 2026. But before we get there, just one more thing on 2025. Any surprises? Anything catch you off guard? I mean, again, you were pretty much dead on your commercial forecast. I know you go much more granular for those who subscribe and get your Outlook quarterly newsletter. Anything shock you? Anything surprise you from 2025?
Yeah, I'm sure depending on who you ask, like I said, you'll have some really specific anecdotes, right? From my perspective, overall, broadly, I think it was, like I said, pretty much in line. But there is some volatility. We also cover the multifamily side because there's an overlap there in the non-residential space, and that's one that kind of seemed to be a little more volatile of late. And we did see a dip in multifamily, so I thought that there might be more of a bounce back there, and there wasn't. But like I said, the main surprise or not really surprise, but the main thing that we kind of didn't expect was for the starts to kind of get pushed back further.
Yeah, which is not great news, not great news. But we'll talk about 2026 in a second. Nick St. Dennis is with me, Vice President, Research and Data at KMR. Look at Key Media Research, all one word.com, and hit the research button to learn more. So 2026, let's talk big picture. There's again mixed confidence depending on, I guess, which area of the continent you're at. How you feeling? Are you looking more of the same from 2025? I mean, you just kind of hinted with the starts sliding that that there might be some more volatility on the landscape. But what do you think in 2026?
Yeah, so a little bit more of the same, but I would say just maybe slightly more negative, or we'll say less positive to make it sound better. Slightly less positive, but the year, last year, institutional kind of helped buoy the industry in a way, when you're looking at the bigger picture and overall numbers, while commercial was flat. And what we're seeing now is that institutional activity is starting to edge down a little bit too, and commercial isn't picking up the slack. So now you're kind of seeing both sides of the main categories of non-residential flattening out and pulling back slightly. Now, the good news is I think our projections as of now with the activity is that commercial it'll be less negative than it was last year, and then institutional will just be sort of flat as opposed to slight growth. So kind of more of the same, really, and then anticipating that what we were expecting to see maybe late this year or late last year going into this year, sort of a little bit of a pickup that's going to be kind of pushed back to later in this year or next year. But yeah, overall, mainly flat. But the good news is it's not a slide. It's just we've been so comfortable over the past 10, 15 years with this steady growth rate.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic mixed things up a bit, but then after that there was a kind of a quick surge in pent-up demand, and then price increases messed up our perspective of what growth means.
Right.
And so now we're at this point where it's all kind of just like leveling out, right? So that's sort of where we're at now. We're kind of at this flat pace, and with an expectation that we're going to start edging up.
Well, we'll take it. And you know what? I mean, flat is better than the alternative. That's for sure. I mean, I think
And
there's
it
a lot
depends on
yeah.
depends on the region too, like you said. We've been hearing for the past several years, if you talk to glazing contractors or industry stakeholders covering, the southeast, south central region, those kinds of areas have been doing pretty well.
Yeah.
But they're kind of flattening out a little bit too, but they're still, at elevated levels. But
Yeah.
then you go out California and, the conversation isn't so confident out in California. But one thing was interesting, if I could just touch this real quick, is
Yeah.
we do an annual survey research on glazing contractors,
Hmm.
and sort of are able to measure the sentiment levels. And we have a new number that actually does that, and we can divide it up by regions and things like that. Well, the West region has been kind of pulled down a bit by a slowdown in California, because California is such a large share of the market.
Right.
Well, this year the West actually had a bit of an uptick, and I'm looking at it saying, well, I'm hearing everybody I talk to in California is, talking about things really slow.
Yeah.
And so I looked at our numbers, and basically the numbers in California as a state, if I removed it from the West region, was actually like the lowest of all regions. But the remainder of the West, that sort of, that mountain region area,
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
most part, I mean, from what we're seeing, they're like doing really well. And the positivity in those areas is actually lifting up
Wow.
the large state of California. So this is why it's like, you have to really dig into all these different areas and stuff like that. But I guess that's one of the surprises, going back to the surprises you talked about, is
Yeah.
is that. So that region is one to look out for, I think.
Yeah, and it's funny that we have something similar with New York City is different than the rest of New York.
Right.
And when you talk about some soft markets like New England, the market is soft compared to Texas. But you ask people in Texas and they think they're slow, and I
Right.
always joke that a guy in Boston will kill for that level of slow, right?
Yeah, so and that's funny you say that, because we did see a little dip in sentiment in the southeast and the south central region from glazing contractors, even though like our other data that actually tracks the numbers says that they're doing well. And like it's because of what you said. They're used to this, constant activity where, oh, if our backlogs didn't grow as much this year, then it's a negative. But
Yeah.
it's a good problem to have, I suppose.
For sure, for sure. And it's good that people, you're doing the tracking, you're doing the polling, the survey, and then matching with your numbers, and that's giving people some hard data. I got Nick St. Dennis with me, Vice President of Research and Data at KMR, Key Media and Research. Key Media Research is the website, keymediaresearch.com, and hit the research button. And so last year we talked about hotels, we talked about a few different things and segments. Uh, any specific segment, the breakdown of, whether it's office or hotel or schools, anything sticking out for you, good or bad, for 2026?
I would say not necessarily much that's really good at the moment.
Hmm.
The healthcare and educational segments that had been pretty strong over the past several years starting to slow down. So that's one I would have pointed to as being one of the positives
Yeah.
that's kind of slowing lately. One segment that continues to be pretty strong, but it depends on where you are, and is transportation. And it's not a big segment, but you hear a lot of glazing contractors, and you see it in the numbers, of a lot of airport work going,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But the thing with that is, like, you better get it, because there's the airport in this one region, and you better go get that airport. But if you get it, it's a lot of glass.
Yeah.
So that's been a segment that I think has been pretty strong and continues to look relatively stable over the next several years. But overall, most sectors are pretty slow, if not pulling back slightly right now.
Yeah. How much does just the basic uncertainty of our world play into this? Just because it seems like every day there's a new policy, there's a new tariff, there's a new this, that, or the other. Or is it just this is the way it is right now, as a correction versus what happened a few years ago when things were going crazy and people were getting PPP money and so on?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, this is the beauty of having economists working kind of parallel to what I do.
Yeah.
So I get to rely on them for that sort of thing, the more macroeconomic outlook, and what it seems like, most of the sentiment out there among the construction economists are that's just that uncertainty is causing, I guess, project delays, projects to not start off, and that's impacting our industry downstream. And you're hearing kind of the same thing from like the glazing contractors and fabricators. They're just they point to a lot of policy related things as being markers of uncertainty, and therefore, and that's what they believe is also causing it.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. It's an adventure. It's an adventure. We'll talk more on this, but I always break up the podcast with a fun one. And for the last few years, I've always asked you sports questions. I know better to ask you about the Jets this year. Won't even go
Yeah.
there.
You can ask about the Islanders though. That's
Your
fine.
Islanders are playing well, so you got to be happy.
Yeah.
Though now there's a 3 week break until they play again, thanks to the
Yep.
Olympics, which is kind of nuts. So we're switching it up. Favorite all time movie? What is Nick St. Dennis's favorite all time movie?
That is a good one because there's a lot of movies out there.
Yeah.
I went through a phase in high school and into college where I was into like the hardcore DVD, collecting the massive collection of DVDs and I was
Yep.
like super into that. So but I haven't been as much of a movie person as of late. My favorite all-time movie, I guess I'm kind of trying to delay here. I'm gonna say it's a Slapshot is probably my favorite
Oh,
all-time
beautiful.
movie.
Beautiful.
Yeah, Slapshot and Caddyshack are my two favorites, but Slapshot is just so unique and it has everything, so that would probably be my favorite.
Reg Dunlop and the guys. I could always watch Slapshot. That's a great one. And I'm laughing over the DVD collection because we have thousands of DVDs.
Yep.
And the funniest part, Nick, was on Christmas Eve, our cable got cut. They were doing work in our backyard, the cable company, and they cut our wire. And obviously, there was nobody to fix it for, a day and a half. And so, I said, oh, we'll plug in the DVD player. We got thousands of DVDs. I go grab the DVD player, and the smart TV needed internet to set up the DVD.
Of course.
So couldn't watch a DVD.
Yeah, I had a similar thing that happened, but it's even kind of going further back in time. We were my wife and my two kids were going to visit her grandmother up in the mountains in Virginia, and I was staying in the room with my son who's 6 years old, and she had a stack of VHSs, like Disney VHSs, with the TV, with the little VHS slot on the
Yeah,
bottom.
yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, I can teach him about how we used to, watch VHSs and all that stuff. And so I go to put it in and it just like spits it out, it doesn't catch. So I'm like, oh man. So then I grab another one, I put it in, and it like starts to go. And I'm like, oh, we're good. And then you just hear all this crackling and stuff inside the machine. I stop it and I pull the tape out and it's all twisted up,
Oh
because it hadn't been
no.
used in like 20 years. And I'm like, man, kind of similar to that situation. It's
Yep.
like they're refusing to let us go back.
Yeah, that's it. I was like, hey, finally we can get some use out of these things.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I love it. We both had that together. Very cool. And I love the movie choices, and Caddyshack can't go wrong either on that one. So a couple more questions for Nick St. Dennis, Vice President of Research and Data, KMR. Look up keymediaresearch.com, all one word, keymediaresearch.com, and hit the research tab, and you'll find out more. So one of the things last year that you laid out was the Glass Data series. That was, brand new last year. How's that going? Any new offerings off of that? Any other new offerings off the site? Give me a rundown on, the success of the Glass Data series that you had.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of years ago, we launched a platform called Glass Data, which is kind of a hub. It's a subscription-based hub where you can log in and kind of see all of our data and insights and visualizations and things like that and tools. We had been doing industry-specific research over the past 8 years, and I'd put out these annual reports. But one of the things about that is once you put out a report in January and somebody calls you in August and says, "What do you have?" I say, "Well, I have this report," and
Yeah.
then they say, "Well, this is from January." So I was like, "Well, how can we serve people throughout the year?" So we instead just basically took all that and made it digital, which I probably should have done from the start. And so now you can, we update the data regularly. Some are quarterly, some are half year, some are annual, but there's always information being updated on that. And we try to cover as many areas of the industry as possible. It's actually pretty tough. We're a small shop trying to do this, but it's tough because I have to pick and choose what I include that's going to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
And so we sort of started at a more macro level and we're starting to get more granular. But what we did last year is we were able to dive into other actual segments of the industry. For example, we launched a machinery section.
Oh,
So
very
there's one in there that section on there where you can look at global market share data of machinery companies, or look at what's the estimated growth rate of fabrication machinery in the U.S., things like that. We're trying to serve because we have a fair share of machinery companies that utilize the tool. And so we're always just constantly rolling those things out. And then one of the things this year that I'm trying to put pressure on myself to get done is to expand on our Canada coverage. So it's very US focused based on the data that we have available.
Sure.
But we do have a fair amount of data and information and insights from Canada as well. And I want to integrate those as well because obviously there is a crossover between the countries and the work that everybody's doing.
Sure, sure. No, that makes sense. And yeah, the machinery thing sounds interesting because yeah, that segment's a pretty big part of our industry. I mean, that drives a
Absolutely.
lot of things. So it's good that people are using it and you're breaking it out. So you're happy a couple years into the glass data adventure. You're good with it so far.
Yeah, it's been really good. It's fun to pick out the different things to try to cover, and it's even more fun to actually do the work, I guess maybe. But getting feedback from users and things has been really cool. A lot of we have a pretty high rate of renewals, meaning that
Hmm.
people are happy with the tools. And then I just getting feedback from going to the trade shows and I'll demo it, and if someone's says, well, it doesn't have this, well, I can take a note down, and if I hear enough people say that, I can try to add it. So that's been a good experience. So it's just a matter of I've been so worried about getting the thing perfected and then
Yeah.
showing it, trying to get people in there using it and all those sorts of things. But now I need to focus more on making it more visible out there so people know about it.
Yeah, I mean, because I think you do have the back end perfected now. It's pushing it out there, and and you are nimble. That's the best part. I mean, it's not like you have 1,000 people to run things up the flagpole on. When
Yeah.
somebody hits you up or a few people hit you up on things, you can probably turn on a dime pretty quickly. Versus a different sort of scenario where it's just hundreds of people. You can turn real fast, I assume.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And also, and for those who use it now, one of the nice things is I kind of provide there's a little bit of a service aspect of it too, right? So if one of the users, they're paying for this service, so it's like it's not useful to them, but they don't know what the information means. So if they open a page or they're looking at some charts and they're a little bit, confused about something, they can email me. We can set up a call and we'll go through it together. There's certain things where I'll have to say, all right, we got to contract something separate for this. But if
Right.
it's just getting on a call, going over some of the numbers or explaining what they mean, or even pulling some behind the scenes data that I don't have on there, we're more than happy to do that because part of it is that service and that conversation. And I always learn stuff from those as well.
Very cool. Very cool. I love it. So talking about learning things, you were just in Hawaii. Glass Expo Hawaii was there first time in 20 years or so. How was the event? How did your presentation go? I mean, it is fertile ground. I joke with you, before we started. They are quote unquote truly on an island out there.
Yep,
Uh,
absolutely.
so how was it? What were your takeaways from Hawaii?
It was a great event. And in terms of my presentation, I do the opening presentation, like the industry outlook presentation at all the Glass Expo regional trade shows.
Yep.
And I had to put a little bit extra. I had to put a little bit extra work into this one because when we go to whether you're going to New York or Texas or California or Florida or wherever we go, Midwest, um, I'm sort of able to kind of there's a bag of tricks I can lean on where it's like I can
Yeah.
focus on the state, but there's regional trends that I can kind of tie in, and then there's national trends, and there's people from all over the mainland that come to the show, so I can kind of there's a lot to cover, and I have a lot to work with basically.
Yeah.
Going out to Hawaii, I knew that'd be completely different. I can't be talking about some what's trending in Kentucky and have it translate over into Hawaii necessarily. So I had to kind of basically start from scratch and just dig in as much data as I can. Fortunately, they have their state government has a really good economic data
Good.
available. And then from then on, it was like working with that, going into construction numbers, and then talking to people. And it was funny because right up until the minute before I went on that presentation, I was bouncing around the room, like picking the brains of the people there, like the glass shops and glazing contractors, to make sure that when I go up there to talk about what I talk about,
Yeah.
it's correct, basically. So it was
Yeah.
kind of more of a conversation. So that was really cool. And the event went really well. But
Good.
yeah, there were so many interesting, unique dynamics about the Hawaii glass industry that were so fun to learn about and to, put an exclamation point on, really.
I'm glad you guys went there. Good people, a lot of good people.
Oh yeah, so helpful too. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny, we all look at it's paradise, because that's where we vacation, but this is where they all work.
Yep.
But yet they're super. I mean, whether it's Chris Knitter from, Oahu, I mean, he's just incredible. His
Yeah.
family. I mean, there's
Spent some time with him.
so many good people out there. So you
Yeah, and
probably
they're
have,
all and they're all there's not really competitors there, it feels like. They're all just the glass shops and the glazing contractors and everybody, they all work very well together, and they're all very friendly. So that was kind of cool. Our industry in general is like
Yeah.
that, right? But it's like they take it to another level, Like
Sure.
you mentioned you're talking to somebody and then you mention like, oh yeah, I was talking to so and so at this other place, and you realize, oh, that's a competitor. I should probably shut up. And they're like, oh yeah, that's my buddy. So
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah, it is. It's a good feel. Good feel. One more for Nick St. Dennis, Vice President, Research and Data, KMR, Key Media Research. See them online at keymediaresearch.com and just hit the research button. So I gave some people kind of the instance, but if people want your newsletter, if they want to hear you speak, so starting with the newsletter, how they sign up for that, and then you're speaking. When and where is the next time somebody can catch Nick St. Dennis in action?
It's a good question. I probably should have pulled my schedule up, but I believe the next one is Glass Expo Northeast will be the next
Yeah.
show I'm speaking at. That's our regional trade show on Long Island, and that's always a big turnout.
Yep.
So hope to see as many people as possible there that are listening to this. And then in terms of getting our information and kind of getting signed up, we do have the Glass and Glazing Quarterly Review, which is our quarterly newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to Vitro for always being a sponsor. They've supported that. And they're the reason why I'm able to actually put the newsletter out for free, because they're supporting the work, and we do behind the scenes on that. So thank you. If it's okay to say that. And then the quarterly report is our free to industry members report that I talk about how the last quarter went in terms of glass and glazing activity, and then how that compares year over year. And it's kind of a teaser to glass data, but it has enough meat, I think, there where it's still helpful, even if you're not looking to do the full subscription to glass data. So you can go to keymediaresearch.com and go to our my division's website, or you can just contact me, just LinkedIn, search me on LinkedIn, and just shoot me a message. I manually put you on the email list. I'll add you to the list, and we send it out. I send it out twice each time. So if you don't see it the first time, it should come through your inbox second time. If you still don't see it, shoot me an email, and it should, I can get it to you.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. If you're not on Nick's email address, it's email service. It's highly worth it. It's great content. It's in the right amount of bytes too. It's not too heavy. You're not opening it up and seeing 78 pages. And you're also not opening it up and seeing a half page. I mean, so it's the perfect thing. And I got to give you that too. Vitro, super people. And they do a lot of things to benefit the industry. Obviously, it benefits them to have their name on that, but it also, it's good industry stewardship by them. So I'm glad you mentioned them. Good people.
They've been a big supporter of what we do, and so it's been great.
That's awesome. And so in Glass Expo Northeast, that's always a good show for you up in on Long Island or in Long Island. You're from there.
On Long Island, yeah. Well, I'm from way north in the state, but my sister lives on the island, and it's definitely on. So, and as a New York Islanders fan, I better say it right, or they'll kick me out. So.
All right, I'm glad I got to ask you that. But anything else you want to cover? This has been great. It's been great to catch up, and it's going to be an interesting year. But anything else that you want to hit on?
Not really. I mean, I look forward to seeing everybody at all the industry events. It's nice to get to see people multiple times per year. And this year, I thought last year was busy, but then I looked at the schedule for this year, and it's busy as well. So Glass Tech's going to be this year, and BEC I'm looking forward to in a few weeks. I can't believe that's coming up quickly. And then and then we've got several glass expos coming up still. All kind of glass build. We'll see a glass build.
Yep.
So looking forward to all that.
Yeah, it's a good year, especially when you have the Glass Tech year. That adds a whole nother dimension. And you did Hawaii, then you're going to do Germany at the back end. So lots of frequent flyer miles.
Yeah, and I did Finland for the first time last year. Right. I did a workshop at GPD, which was really cool. But now that we're put GPD on the opposite years, it's like it almost feels like one year.
Yeah, I love it. Well, you're out there and you're doing a great job, my friend. Continue to do it. Continued success there with your website, which is keymediaresearch.com. Hit the research tab for Nick St. Dennis's info from KMR, Vice President Research and Data. Thank you so much for doing the podcast again this year. Look forward to having you back next year. Look forward to seeing you at one of these events. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thanks for everything you do, Max.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you to Nick St. Dennis. And before that, Jon Kimberlain. Thrilled to have those guys with me. It'll be a little bit before my next podcast. I did a bunch in ahead of BEC, but do not worry. Mid-March, you'll have another one. And it's going to be a good one, actually. I got some interesting people lined up for March, April, May. I'm booking in June right now. It's pretty cool. But thank you very much for checking that out. Thank you to FHC for their support. You will be able to see them at BEC if you are coming to that event. And the big news from them is their New Jersey Supercenter, 120,000 square feet of manufacturing distribution. If you're tired of back orders and all the other adventures, you now have a choice. Check them out at fhc-usa.com. Wrapping up the TV run through, and I've mentioned some of these now. I've seen some. Lincoln Lawyer, I finished it finally on Netflix. Never fails. Just a good, easy show. The Night Agent, new season's out on Netflix. I've not started that yet. Looking forward to it. And then if a big one, an interesting one, the Chevy Chase documentary. I'm Chevy Chase and you're not, and it was I believe it's on HBO Max. It was originally aired on CNN. It's good. Yeah, I mean, he's a very complicated guy. Uh, there's some jokes in there that are a little rough, to say the least. But it's an interesting look at him and his career, and a really well done film. So I'm Chevy Chase and you're not. That's on HBO Max. So check that out. All right, we're wrapping it all up. I hope to see you all at BEC. If not, I'll see you the next time on another edition of the From the Fabricator podcast. Thank you so much for the support, and have a great one.
Oh, the music is stopped.